You know how when there's a new generation, then you will get bowled over by power creep for a while? And then even after the generation settles and develops its standards and you get used to the power level, then there are still times where it's just kind of absurd, and you almost can't even comprehend taking all of these threats on. I don't mean in the cosmic sense, although that too, but I just mean, when you're trying to throw a team together, and that old saying about, oh, you got to pick your poison, you can't cover everything, it just gets more and more true, it feels like. Because it's not just that everything's really, really strong, it's that there's a lot of variety in the threats being thrown at you. To take a Gen 7 example, like Kartana and Tapu Lele are very different Pokemon, right? So, and they have such limited counters, and they're so strong, and they bowl over even their checks, and all that stuff we know about really strong Pokemon. So, I really appreciate the existence of Ditto, because it's so unique in, whatever you throw at the opponent, you better be able to take it on yourself. And I think that's a really, really healthy dynamic. There was a point where people were really catching on to Ditto in Gen 7, and they were calling it the Invalidator because there were so many cheesy strategies that were basically just throwing nonsense at the opponent and going, oh, well, you can't handle this because of XYZ, usually being some combination of power and coverage and speed. And then Ditto comes along and is like, all right, well, right back at you. So I think it's a really nice way of keeping big threats in check, and that is a very important element of balance to me. But I was watching this SPL game from yesterday, and it struck me another one of Ditto's strengths, because Ditto is not just a revenge killer for that +6/+6 Garchomp or whatever, although obviously it is. But I also really appreciate another not underseed, I shouldn't say that, but it's kind of a secondary bonus to using Ditto, because when you use Ditto, usually it's because, oh, I don't want to lose to that absurd threat, but you can also use it in defensive ways, and that's something I really appreciate. I remember in Gen 7, then, it was being used alongside Regenerators, because then you could you could use Ditto to copy the opponent's Toxapex or whatever, and then you could just switch endlessly. Like, in that sense, it was another Regenerator Pokemon when you were facing another slow team. So, oh, the other team won't be able to... You can't break through the other team? Well, they can't break through you either, because Ditto not only copies Regenerator, but also it has infinite PP, because it resets the moves it has every single time it comes in. So, you switch in, regenerate, recover, and that kind of thing can really drag a game out, try to hit the 1,000 turn limit. That's the less spectator-friendly side of Ditto. But I appreciate how it can go on and be used incredibly well defensively as well. And, of course, there's also the aspect of Ditto I wanted to mention here, which I really liked, which is just scouting movesets. Like, you lead off with Ditto, and it's going to be a mirror match. What else would it be? And then you see what your opponent is running exactly. So, I think that's a wonderful aspect of it. And we're not going to watch this game because it's really long, and I was kind of talking to someone, so I zoned out after the initial Ditto awesomeness. But it did remind me of another game that I really, really liked with fantastic use of Ditto. And yeah, so it was that game and this game as well, even though I'm not going to be going into it. But yeah, you just scout. Look at that, you turn in. Oh, now you know exactly what that Gliscor is running. So now he knows it's SD Facade, and he knew it was Facade already. Okay, never mind. That was a bad example. Did he? Yeah, he did. Okay. All right, that aside. But yeah, this game, if you want to watch it, I put the link in the pinned comment. Look, there he did it again. He just keeps scouting more and more moves. The only thing it can't do is scout hidden powers. So, yeah, people are using HP Ground Ditto to, because Ditto keeps its own hidden power, if I remember. So people were using HP Ground Ditto to beat Magnezone in at some point in Gen 7. I forget the exact details. Yeah, I'm old, but I still I was around for Gen 7. I paid attention. I liked it, actually. I still do. It's great. So this it's very easy to just say, oh, Ditto is a revenge killer, then it stalls in long games and it scouts movesets. And yes, obviously it does do all that. And it's kind of a weird Pokemon to use. It's kind of unusual, and that's why I think it's so great. Not just because of all those dynamics, the healthy, you better watch out what broken things you're gonna throw at me, because then I'm gonna use it against you. I think that is really good. But what I really appreciate about Ditto is the incredibly inventive ways in which it can be used. It's not like a blueprint Pokemon. Like yes, there is somewhat of a blueprint. Like, oh, if they have a broken setup sweeper, then send it in after. Things like that. Although you got to be careful about that too, which is a good thing, because if you send it in on, I don't know, Dragon Dancer, if you send it in on the turn it Dragon Dances, then you transform into it in its base form, and then it Dragon Dances. So, yeah. But what I really appreciate is the incredible flexibility and creativity that using Ditto entails, and if you want to get the most out of it, then you are going to have to. It's going to take skill, because otherwise you can use it and it'll be fine. But if you really, really want to wield Ditto well, then that's something else entirely. I should really put this on hyper fast. I just want to get through all the Ditto parts that I don't remember. All right, we're gonna. Yeah, here's this Gliscor trying to make its way through Celesteela. Yeah, this is a thriller. Maybe maybe the Ditto parts I remembered are already more or less behind us. Seems like it. I mean, I guess so. That's the thing. What's Ditto going to be doing here for now, anyway? Like, it's going to copy what? That'll be a threat, But later in the game, absolutely, you have your Mega Zam, and then Ditto copies that, and that gets scary. So, yeah, right, I think we've got the early game Ditto stuff behind us. How far did this game go? Or, I forget if it broke 200 or not. Anyway. Yeah, change the background music. Oh, there it was. But I think it was just pivoting into Heatran for some reason. Yeah, I decided to change the background music. I was sick of the Pokemon remixes. As much as I like Pokemon music, it's... Okay, so... we're just gonna... If there's not gonna be any more... Because I remember most of the Ditto stuff was at the beginning. I always do appreciate seeing Bulky Hydreigon, though. I think that's a great set. Or, defensive, whatever. Anyway, okay, yeah, that's the game. Wow, this did break 200. And... Oh, wait, we saw Ditto there, but it didn't really do anything. Yeah, it's just being Clefable. Not in a very exciting way. But that's great. I think it's so flexible how it can just... I think it's flexible. Of course it is. I appreciate how flexible it is. And just... It's not just like... oh... Their Ditto dies. Sad. But it's not like you just pick one of your opponent's Pokemon to copy. That already would be pretty cool. But the way you just switch out, it's like, oh, well, now I'm using their Toxapex against them. Now I'm using their Heatran against them. Now I'm using their Tornadus Therian. Whatever it is. And Ditto is very underseen in Gen 6. And Gen 5, half the time we kind of forget Ditto exists. And I mean, it's weird, though, because you have to use a Scarf on it. And Gen 5 doesn't have that... I mean, for revenge killing broken stuff, sure. But for defensive play, then you're not going to be copying as many regenerators and endlessly PP stalling with Ditto. And, with the hazard situation and permanent sand being what it is, then... Although, I mean, turning broken rain stuff against it is very nice. Okay, so here's a game from 2018. March 1st. Oh my god, that's almost 6 years ago. So this is an SPL game. It was a big one. And McMegan versus Shoka. This is when Doug Trio was allowed and Sun was annoying everyone. And McMegan is using a really inspired team. This kind of team used to be run a lot, but with whether it was Latios or Latios, same thing. So same difference is one of my favorite expressions. I use it way too much. And then in the last slot, it was traditionally Scarf Garchomp. It was a team made by Hugo, or Great Astard. One of the greatest usernames in a community with a rich history of great usernames thought up by 12-year-olds, such as yours truly. Anyway, yeah, and then McMegan decided, oh, well, what if instead of Garchomp I could use Ditto, and it's kind of great. So here comes a Doug lead. I don't know why that Doug was leading. But, yeah, this is a long game, so we're not going to be analyzing every turn or anything, because, again, our focus is on Ditto. And I would really be just thrilled if we saw more Ditto in Gens 5 and 6 for that matter. I think 6 especially when it's getting when it's being overwhelmed by setup sweepers, then it's and there's the trap and permanent sun. But here we go. Now here comes Ditto to reverse trap the Doug Trio. Obviously you can't do this anymore, but isn't that cool? Just the flexibility this Pokemon offers. Like, Garchomp couldn't have done that. No other Scarfer would have. Could have. I guess if he had a Scarf Pursuit Pokemon, like Scizor or something. But then Scarf Scizor, those Scarf Pursuiters are not going to be, revenge killing the big fast threats. So I mean, Scarf Weavile gets used in Gen 7 rarely, I think. So, but yeah, you get the idea. Just being able to, whatever your opponent uses, you throw right back at them. I think it's not that simple always, obviously, because you are not always going to be able to counter your opponent's Pokemon with another of their own Pokemon. It's not like because even if you took the Ditto aspect out of that, it's not like your counter to opposing Garchomp will always be Garchomp. So that's another thing. I think it's great that it's not just a blanket easy answer to everything, because I really value in Pokemon when it's nuance there's a lot of nuance and detail in really displaying skill, and in a game like this, then it's about how you play it more than the end result most of the time. As for what really matters, anyway. So to people like me, at least. And I think that those details that you find in the use of Ditto are really, really wonderful. Anyway, Ninetales runs from that, and in comes Scarm. Cannot get spikes. Instead, here comes Rotom on the double. Masterful use of Rotom, by the way. And a double to Rotom. They're not letting Mew get toxicked. Although, if I recall, something awesome happens in that regard. So, he tries to Toxic on another double to Rotom against Xatu. That was a nice heads-up move by Shoka. But no, Xatu comes in. Scarm eats Brave Bird and Helmet Chip. And more Rotom Volt switching. The thing about Rotom is that it's so good at taking... If you want to have a Pokemon take Toxic that isn't like healing from it or immune to it, then it's Rotom, because it sticks around with Pain Split, so its lower health almost winds up being an asset at times. As long as you're not relying on it to take big hits, of course, which you definitely aren't in this kind of game. Anyway, here comes Broken Suncrest with Doug support, just completely shrugging off that Draco. Anyway, and there's Mew. Beautiful use of Mew to Toxic that Crest there because of Synchronize. So if you get Toxic with... if you synchronize a Chansey Toxic, well, Chansey has Natural Cure, so who cares? So... yeah, but if you synchronize a Cresselia Toxic, then, Cresselia obviously does not have that. So let's just watch that again. Toxic, synchronize. Oh, it's beautiful. Anyway, so now in comes Scarm again, trying to make its magic happen. Double the Rotom on the Xatu, just beautiful. And in comes Mew again, trying to taunt. And there is the taunt, because, and here's the kicker. Chansey just reveals Heal Bell. Okay, that's good because for Shoka anyway. Because yeah, now you can get rid of the toxic on the Crest, right? What does that mean though? Shoka has a Chansey that can heal off. That can use Heal Bell. That means McMegan has a Chansey that can use Heal Bell because of Ditto. That kind of... I just think that's beautiful. I love those little details. And anyway, so McMegan just keeps the pressure on in this sustained fight. And yeah, here comes another double to taunt the Chansey. Now it's actually a net negative for McMegan because he's taking the poison damage on that taunt, Irus. But again, he has that Heal Bell waiting for him. So again, Rotom. Oh, sorry, skipped a turn by accident. He's going to roost off that V-switch, and in comes Ninetales again, getting health back. Ninetales itself, oh, there it is. There's the spike on the lack of Xatu as Ninetales goes for the burn. Maybe Xatu should have doubled in there. I guess, no, because he was expecting another Latias switch, so it wouldn't do anything. But hey, that was a good move on McMegan's part, because... Look, Latias is not... Xatu's not coming in if he thinks Latias is coming in. Right? And Skarm, yeah, okay, it sits on Crest. You can do other things to sit on Crest. So he'll take a Sun Flamethrower with Sturdy. Wait, was he yet? Actually, I think Spadef Skarm, which it is in Gen 5 because of Alakazam, Spadef Skarm can take a Flamethrower in Sun. Just barely, but Ninetales is just that weak. So, and Will-O-Wisp, you take a Will-O-Wisp for a Spike, but he manages to dodge it. So, now in comes... Sorry, the skip button is a little excited. So, Latias comes in, gets burned the turn after, and Roost on the Protect. Now a Draco. Wow, it does a lot. I'm not a fan of Life Orb Latias. I think Latios would be very nice to have here, but hey. Anyway, Crest isn't coming in here because of the Toxic, so... Very gradual game, and that's what the focus is on Ditto here. And you'll always hear me praising good game planning over the course of a battle, because I think that's when the skill really comes out. I know I keep hammering this home, not to say that there isn't skill in shorter games, because of course there is. But I think that planning over... You'll see a lot of players who are good in shorter games kind of burn out and lose steam very quickly when the game slows down. And I think that kind of mental discipline is really important to have. So, and I think when it's anyone's game, in shorter games, then it can be... There's a lot of stuff that can go either way, just in terms of things being more impactful. So, a wrong turn, an unlucky turn, the moves are not as... I don't want to say right or wrong, because that's not quite the correct way of looking at it, funnily enough. But it's more that when there's less information and everything is more up in the air, then you can't make informed moves as much. So there's a lot of bullshit bingo, to, put it a little crassly, where you just don't know, and you cannot reasonably make any inferences. Like, for example, I think Advance is very balanced, for the record, but when you have Zapdos versus T-Tar in the lead slot, there is no reasonable way to infer, on the first turn, there's no reasonable way to infer what either set of them is running, depending on which side you're on. And that can really lead to some ugly turn one mind games, as we see all the time in tour play. Yeah, or Mence versus T-Tar leads, things like that. So I'm not saying that it's not something to consider, but if you have a slower paced game, or I shouldn't even say slower paced games, because there are plenty of long games that aren't slow. But if you have a longer game, then that turn one, where you have Zapdos versus T-Tar, it's not going to be as make or break, because your team can handle T-Tar or Zapdos or whatever better, right? But if you have a frail offense team where you have where every turn is so crucial, you're guessing right from. You're not making an informed decision. You are guessing, and all the my opponent used this in the past. That is not logically sound at all. So you can't do that. I mean, people trick themselves into thinking that they made some sort of correct call in that regard all the time, but it is delusional. So all this is to say, sing the praises of longer games where this kind of thing, because the better moves are being made because they're more informed moves. I don't want to say strictly one way or another. There are plenty of short games which are incredibly skillful on both sides. And it's not necessarily always going to just be, there's no information, therefore everything is a risk. And I think a part of it is also a problem of the teams being used. That's why they're less reliable. But hopefully the point is being made. And the point being made here about the longer games is that this is where Ditto really shines, because it's not just, a bunch of big sweepers crashing in the opponent and then Ditto reverse sweeping. It's this kind of detail that I keep stressing as amazing. So in comes Chansey's Latias Rus, and it heal bells, and Chansey tries to soft boiled, and look at that. The Ditto now used heal bell. Oh, wonderful. Now, of course, he's going to have to sacrifice, I think he's going to sacrifice Scarm? No. Oh, man. Well, this is an honorary Gen 5 OU laddering video where I spam Victini and Darmanitan together. But yeah, look at that. Just Latias. You couldn't even say, Latias would have lived that. Latias is frail. No, Latias got dropped by that. It's a shame because I just healed off the burn, too. But, oh well. And, look at that. Now it's like, you have the Victini? No, well, I also have the Victini. And he doesn't even go for the V-Create. I think because he calced. Yeah, I mean, speaking of longer games, it's so much better seeing them live if you can, because you get also the real-time tension in the air of the game being considered. When the players are just going click, 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 then you don't get that same suspense out of it. You don't get that same artistry. Sorry, I was equating it to movies in my head, because of course I was. But yeah, so he's calcing here, going down to 20 seconds and giving all his teammates heart attacks. And he decided, all right, well, I'll sacrifice the Skarmory, which is fine because I get a U-turn on the -1 Victini, which is, great. And then it's definitely in range, especially because of the spike. So, yeah, here comes Ditto again. And, I mean, Garchomp couldn't do this. You know why? Because Garchomp gets walled by Cresselia. No other Scarfer could. Like, whatever you wind up going with. I mean, unless you had a Victini yourself, but you never would. So, in this situation, it's so beautiful how Ditto just turns Victini against it. Oh, gorgeous. So, down goes Xatu. There's the Rocky Helmet. Okay, who cares? Yeah, there's the downside that Ditto also has a keeps its HP stat, so its bulk isn't quite what it's copying, but hey. Down. Wow, that's a lot of damage. So now it's just Victini back and forth, hydroing, not wanting to be outsped, and not even going for the pain split, just going right for the Mew. Yep. Yeah, so this one plays itself out fairly simply, I think, because nothing stops taunt. Oh. Does he just... Oh, he just gets the pain split. Oh, that's beautifully done by McMegan. Yeah, he's still going to... He's in V-Create range still, but he can still make something happen with it. I'm not sure what's happening here fully. And I'm not in full analysis mode. But, oh, now he is in... Now he gets the pain split off, and now he is in that range. So, in comes another Ditto heal bell. God. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So he doesn't even... So now I assume he's going to go back to Mew. Yeah. And now Mew is just happily going to taunt Wisp its way through anything. Through everything. It can't even be frozen because of Sun. And... I mean, Victini can switch in, but it's getting worn down by Spike, so... And then after Victini kills... Well, no, God, McMegan beautifully gets his Rotom out of V-Create range, so he avoids getting killed by it. God, what a gorgeously played battle. And... Oh, he doesn't even Volt Switch, so... He doesn't even have to play the sacrifice game, even though he absolutely could. I guess he, well, yeah, because Shoko would be ahead, so then he might, and then they'd be trading V-Create drops, and then Shoko would be out in front, and then McMegan might run out of steam if I'm doing my quick counting in my head correctly. So he's playing it safer rather than just going through the revenge killing route and seeing if he can make it. But I mean, Mew is such a threat anyway. Oh, and he goes for Psychic, and now Victini's in range, so now he just... Oh, now he sacks the Ditto. No! Why? Oh, lame. It's fine. So yeah, Rotom is going to finish the game. I mean, yeah, as if Ditto didn't do enough already. So yeah, now Mew is going to finish the game with its taunt shenanigans. So, beautifully done to McMegan, of course. And this was just a... Yeah, I hope we see more Ditto. I love seeing creative applications that actually handle the game well. Because people are always like, oh, I want to see more creative teams. And then, like, half the creative stuff that gets used is just complete junk. Like, yeah, it's creative. It's also bad. I've almost certainly used that line in a video before, but it's just so... It's true. But Ditto is... Because there's endless ways to use Ditto, pretty much. Slight exaggeration. And you get where I'm going with this. So, yeah, I really like Ditto because it's directly taking on the metagame and not just, oh, well, no one's ever used this Pokemon before. It's like, oh, I wonder why. Anyway, I think I've made all my points. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.